What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for December 4th, 2024. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Wednesday edition of the podcast. Happy hump day to everyone out there. And before we get into today's episode, received a ton of feedback regarding yesterday's episode, most notably on the whole new Philly versus old Philly mentality, sparking the old debate. So much so that I even saw, and I would like to hope that it is directly related to this podcast, but probably not. But Spike Eskin was lecturing on the dangers of anointing this Eagles team as a Super Bowl contender, talking about what we did with the Phillies and how the team believed it, this, that, and the other. And that right there, that is why we need to switch the attitude. That is an old Philly loser mindset. The fact that we were talking about that Phillies team going to the World Series had nothing to do with them shitting the bed the way they did. The fact that maybe they believed it and thought that they could coast, maybe, but that has nothing to do with us. And the difference between the two teams, and this is probably going to get even more feedback, is the coaching. For whatever reason, they went in there with like, if we don't go to the World Series and we're going to go to the World Series, and if not, it's a bust, anything less. And I think when they started off so hot, they believed their own hype. Nick Sirianni is not letting this team do that. And I know a lot of people are still down on him, but this dude has this team bought into whatever he's selling them. And I think that is the difference. And truthfully, as somebody who lived in Philadelphia for almost 20 years, I think I have a good handle. As fans, we always look for doom and gloom. And if you look, this podcast is predicated on the history of Philadelphia sports. It's not been good when it comes to winning championships. So I get it. I absolutely get it. But I think sometimes we get so caught up in what probably is not going to happen or what could happen that we don't enjoy the moment. Enjoy this Eagles team. That's the point I was trying to make. Enjoy it. Have dreams of going to the Super Bowl. Are they going? I don't know. They might not. They might. Who knows? That's the whole joy of it. Don't lose out on the joy of being a fan because you're scared of what might happen. That's the old Philly mentality. Don't expect that the worst is going to happen. It may well do it. But again, last year with the Eagles, last year's Phillies team, they're all separate entities. So to lump them all together, I think you're just hurting yourself. So get on board with New Philly. Enjoy this Eagles team because they're fun. It's fun to watch Eagles games. And don't lose out on that because you're scared or, oh, I've seen this before. I know what's going to happen. You know what? Until 2017, I would have said, absolutely, they're going to find a way to lose it. But they've won one. They've shown it can be done. So that's what you believe in. That, to me, is what the new Philly mindset is. Why not the Eagles winning the Super Bowl this year instead of saying there's no way they're going to win it? Why not go and win the Super Bowl? Enjoy the ride. And truthfully, myself included, I think sometimes we give ourselves too much credit over the power of the teams as fans. At the end of the day, they're going to win it or lose it based on coaching, play on the field, all of that. Yeah, maybe a home field advantage in a playoff game or something like that might get them a little extra amped up. We have no outcome on what happens on the field. To me, it comes down to coaching. And Sirianni, from what I've seen, he's not going to let what happened to this team last year happen. And they're focused 100%. We'll have more on Nick Sirianni in a minute. I'm sure to ruffle some feathers at some point. Before we get into everything, some quick housekeeping. Be sure to follow me on social media, Jimbo_Mott, Twitter and TikTok. On Instagram, @PhillyJimbo. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mott. Continue to spread the word. I appreciate all of you. And thank you to everyone who had a few donations come in yesterday for Giving Tuesday. Thank you for donating to our gift and food drive. All proceeds are benefiting the Maddie and Dixon Community Cupboard. I've already dropped off $500 worth of Target gift cards for them to hand out. We're in the process of collecting donations based on their wish list, doing a reverse advent calendar. I'll have today's item here in a minute. If you want more information on the reverse advent calendar, hit me up. If you just want to donate, and I was going to go to Target or even through Amazon to maybe even like BJ's or Sam's Club, depending on what we get in, to buy the things they need. The link for the GoFundMe is in the description. If you are going to donate directly to the Matty N. Dixon, just be sure to mention this day in Philly sports history, as they're keeping track, just for kind of trying to work out a partnership with them where we can kind of give back to them all the time. So just mentioning the podcast name will help out with that. All right, today's reverse advent calendar item of the day is aluminum foil. So I have the kids, once they get up and out of bed, go downstairs, bring up the aluminum foil, and put it in our donation pile over my shoulder. But aluminum foil is today's reverse advent calendar item. And then our 25 days of kindness. This is a one that I think really could have a major impact. Send some flowers, candy, cookies, a card, or a note of encouragement, or just some sort of acknowledgement. If you have the time and can pull it off, go and volunteer. But go to a nursing home or a VA hospital or something like that, and just reach out to some of the folks in nursing homes who maybe their family do not come and see them, or a veteran in the VA hospital who might need a little bit of cheering up. Just a little note or a card or a word of encouragement will go a long way in helping them. So that is today's 25 Days of Kindness act for today. All right, so let's get into our forgotten team. And quite possibly this is the most well-known and popular team. Probably not forgotten, but I will say in all of my discussions over the years, a lot of times it's surprising to me that a lot of people don't realize that this team played in Philly, a lot of younger folks. But that is the Philadelphia Athletics. Yes, the Oakland Athletics, the soon-to-be Las Vegas Athletics. I forget what city in California they're going to play in this year. But the A's used to play in Philadelphia, and they were founded to compete directly with the Phillies. Back then, before interleague play, the American League and National League were kind of like their own separate entities, and that's why the World Series was always, and the All-Star games were so big, because it was the first time to see some of the teams across leagues play each other. But the American League was founded in 1901. That's when the A's came into existence as a direct competitor to the Philadelphia Phillies. Originally, they were a team in the National League, but it was a whole different organization, set of owners and things like that. But that's where the name, the A's, derived from. The Athletic Club of Philadelphia, I believe it was called. But there was a fierce rivalry with the Phillies because, like I said, they were brought in to be their direct competitors. They would when they first came in the league, they stole players from the Phillies. Even Ben Scheib, who was obviously from Shibe Park, was one of the minority owners for the Phillies. Connie Mack talked him into investing in the A's as well. So I don't think anything like that could happen today, but he did have a financial interest in both teams. But the A's had two real big golden eras when they were in Philly. From 1902 to 1914, they won 6 pennants and 3 World Series. Connie Mack didn't want to pay the players, so he sold them off. They went through some lean years, and then he brought them back into a dominant team from 1927 to 1931 when they won 3 pennants and 2 World Series titles while competing with the Yankees, that was the 1927 Yankees were Murderers Row. So even with those years when Connie Mack's A's didn't win the pennant, they were coming in second place behind the Gehrig and Babe Ruth Yankees. But Connie Mack managed the team from 1901 to 1950. Unheard of. You'll never see somebody manage a team that long today. He has the most wins, most losses, and most games ever as a manager while coaching here in Philadelphia. There was a city series. I talked about the rivalry, but after the season, there was always the city series, which was if the A's or the Phillies weren't in the World Series, it was sort of like a way for them to crown the city champion. And that was a really big deal in Philly back in the day. The A's, unfortunately, didn't financially just couldn't make it work in Philadelphia. Couple that with in 1950 the Whiz Kids, and you had Richie Ashburn, and those Phillies teams were competitive. So the fact that the A's weren't, there was declining attendance. Everybody was all about the Phillies. That helped lead to them leaving town and going to Kansas City. And it's a shame because if you look at the history of the A's, I'm not really sure what happened to them in Kansas City, but the whole situation in Oakland fighting over money and this and that wasn't too far off from what happened here in Philly. And I always wonder what would have happened if the A's were better and if the A's stayed and the Phillies left. It's kind of one of those weird crossroads, butterfly effect type things that what would have happened if the A's stayed in Philly and the Phillies were the ones that moved to Kansas City. But to this day, the Philadelphia Athletics still have the most championships of any team professionally in the city of Philadelphia. So there's that. They have 5 to the Eagles' 4. So this, and going back to the new Philly thing, maybe this is a year that the Eagles at least tie the A's for most championships in the city. But today's forgotten team, the Philadelphia Athletics, played here from 1901 to 1954 when they moved to Kansas City. And yes, kids, there was a period of time when Philadelphia had 2 Major League Baseball teams. All right, before we get into the Eagles, speaking of Major League Baseball, this is a good time, a good segue to talk about this. I'm not sure if anybody has heard about this, but I read it and I kind of just blew it off, and then it seemed like he was serious. But Rob Manfred was talking about instituting a golden at-bat rule, where essentially 1 time per game, doesn't matter what the situation is, if the player already batted, if not in the lineup, taken out of the lineup, whatever it is, that a major league team can put 1 person in for an at bat 1 time per game. So like if there's bases loaded, bottom of the 9th, and Johan Rojas is up, the Phillies could say, timeout, Bryce Harper, get in there and hit for Johan. Absolutely, utterly ridiculous. Like, to even entertain this, the fact that this is a legitimate thing is a joke. It's bad enough you have the ghost runner in extra innings, which is so stupid. But you're going to just allow them to put anybody they want in a game, no matter what the situation is. I get that you want to try to grow the game, but it's just dumb. It's like Savannah Bananas, Rock and Jock. If you're old enough to remember Rock and Jock softball and Rock and Jock basketball, the 5-point basket or 10-point basket, it's absolutely ridiculous. And I get that the idea is to try to market the game and grow the game, but it's a clown show. If this happens, you're going to kill the game as we know it, and it's just going to be a joke at that point. So I guess that's coming up because the owners' meetings will be starting next week, I believe. And Manfred wants to try to get this. It's going to be a lot of hoops and whatever to jump through to get it approved. But once it's in place for next year, absolutely a clown show. Like that to me, then it becomes the Savannah Bananas, the Harlem Globetrotters, Rock and Jock, things like that. It's not really a competition. It's just fun. It's entertainment. And if that's what you're going for, that's fine. But that's not Major League Baseball. That's not what we want to watch. And maybe I'm wrong. Let me know your thoughts on that. Maybe I'm way out of line with this. I like I said, I think the ghost runner in extra innings is stupid. And the fact that you realize it's stupid because you don't do it in the postseason. If you really believed in it and thought it was a good idea, you would do it in the postseason too. And I wonder if this golden at bat rule, like, are you going to do that in the World Series? But Game 6, bottom of the 9th, tie game, elimination on the line, and all of a sudden now you can bring Juan Soto or Shohei Ohtani to the plate? Are you going to allow that for postseason? Because you don't allow the ghost runner. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on the Major League Baseball golden at bat rule proposal, which is absolutely ridiculous. All right. Enough about that. Let's go back and recap yesterday's question of the day. I asked you, over the next 5 games, how many games you think the Eagles are going to win? And 87% of you fell somewhere within 3 to 5. Pretty split evenly between 3 wins and 4 wins. 47 for 3, 40% for 4. And I think that's the sweet spot. I think minimally, I said it yesterday, they have to win 3. They drop 1. It's just a matter of which one. And I keep saying, this game this week is going to be a lot tougher than what a lot of people out there are thinking. So we'll see. I don't think they'll lose to the Panthers, but this will be much closer and much tougher, I think, than any of us would like it to be. But thank you, as always, for participating in the question of the day. There'll be another one later in the show. So speaking of that Panthers game, like I said, it's setting up as the perfect trap game. Coming off a big game in Baltimore, you have another game against an AFC North team in Pittsburgh coming up next week, and then you have the Panthers, who it would be very easy to overlook, but they've been playing well lately, and the Eagles are coming in as 12-point favorites. I get it, but man, this game worries me. We'll have more later in the week with our pick and everything like that, but this is the time of year where, especially teams like the Panthers, these guys want to put stuff on tape, non-preseason stuff on tape, to show that they can play against an NFL competition, and you're playing one of the better teams in the league. They're going to be balling out. So this is going to be a much tougher game, I think, than what we will anticipate. Vic Fangio spoke to the media yesterday. He was asked about Jalen Carter being held, and are there any plans, or do you have any ideas on how to help him fight through that? And essentially said, I don't know, got any ideas? But he did acknowledge that it's bad. He spoke about one of the egregious plays where he was basically tackled and there was no call. With all the talk about this, my hope is that somehow the NFL is listening and they might be keeping a bigger eye on what's going on. And we might see more holding calls down the stretch, which would be huge. Because truthfully, if you watch any of the replays, like I watched like a lot of that second half, he gets held every single play. So maybe the refs will start noticing with all the talk about the missed calls and everything like that. There's a big game tomorrow night, Lions-Packers, impacting the seeding. We will be rooting for the Packers so the Eagles can get into a tie with the Lions for the 1 seed, and then put even more emphasis on the importance of winning every game and playing hard each week. And I mean, that's going to come down to Sirianni. And there's been a lot of talk about him getting a contract extension, and people for it and against it. And I'll be honest, right now I'm going to toot my own horn. And this is not something I do often, but a few weeks back, I was talking about how Sirianni deserves credit for this turnaround. And all I got was, oh, it was the Giants, and it was the Bengals, it was this. But the job he's done is outstanding. And at the same time, giving him a contract extension now versus the end of the year, it's not going to matter. It is not going to matter one bit. However, if you offer him a contract extension now, that shows as an organization you support him. And with all of the shit that happened last offseason, how some of the stuff happened the beginning of this season and things were being questioned, I think that will go a long way in rallying this team together. Because then it shows the players that you believe in him as much as they do. And that, ordinarily, I would say just wait till the end of the season. But I think with this 5-game stretch coming up with a team that has Super Bowl aspirations, giving Nick Sirianni a contract extension now goes a long way in really bringing this team together. Because now we know the players are on board with Nick. The players will run through brick walls for him. They were cheering that they had to work on Monday. It shows from an organizational standpoint that you are behind this man. The players will see that. The players aren't dumb. They know what was talked about last offseason. They know what some of the stuff that was said beginning of this season. By you giving him a contract extension now for this stretch run, that's going to even get those players to play that much harder for him. So I'm on board with extending Nick Sirianni. I'll be first to say, I think I've already apologized because I was hard on him. But I think a lot of folks out there, you need to come over and realize we got a pretty damn good coach. And you do have to take the good with the bad. And I talked about it, I'm not going to get into it, weeks ago with Andy Reid and time management and all of those other things. You take the good with the bad. He's going to be a loose cannon sometimes. He's going to say some goofy, wacky things sometimes. But all he does is win. And I think by extending him now, you're sending the message to the team that this is our guy. Let's go get a Super Bowl. So go ahead. Let me know what you think. I'm sure there's going to be a ton of feedback about that because the Sirianni hate out there is real. Be sure to check out Philly Goat. Get some Christmas shopping done. They have a ton of Saquon Barkley stuff. So my brother-in-law is a Penn State guy. Loves Saquon Barkley. They have a ton of Saquon Barkley tees and hoodies. Bought some for my nephews. And they got you covered. Kid sizes as well. Coffee, coolers, whatever you need. Go to Philly Goat. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off your order. That's phillygoat.com. Promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off of your order. And then check out my boys at the Clashing Conferences podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. Doing good things for college sports right now. The NFL is winding down. Good listen, so go check them out. I almost hate to mention this and bring down our good vibes here, but the Sixers did play last night, and they did win. 110-104, 2 straight wins. Paul George had 29 points, looked like the old PG, but that's just surface level. This team had a 19-point lead in that game, almost lost it at the end. So it took some clutch shots by Tyrese Maxey for this team to beat the Charlotte Hornets. So yeah, they won. Yeah, it's 2 straight. This team is bad. How do you blow a 19-point lead to the Hornets if you're a good team? But, I mean, also, too, the 2-game winning streak was against the Hornets and the Pistons, not necessarily the Knicks and the Celtics. But here's that. All that leads to today's question of the day. Do you care about the Sixers right now? And I had to really think long and hard about this because my initial off-the-cuff reaction was like, no, I don't care. But then here I am getting all pissed off about them blowing a 19-point lead in a game, which truthfully, from a draft standpoint, would have been better if they lost. So as much as I want to say I don't care, I care. But that's the question of the day. Do you care about the Sixers right now? 267-495-8531. That's the Back to the Future voice and text line. Get that. Anything else Philly sports related off your chest? Want to rip me for the Sirianni take? Want to tell me how you're stuck in your old Philly ways and don't want to leave? Maybe you're stuck in your old Philly ways and need some help? Call me. I have the answers. Let's go. But do you care about the Sixers right now? 267-495-8531. That'll get you in. A quick stadium note or arena note for the Sixers in the hearings. I've been kind of following this. And one of the sticking points from the community organizations was just developing the community around them. And I've been very clear. I think if you're going to do this, you celebrate the Chinatown culture and really buy into the neighborhood. And the Sixers, to their credit, did seem willing to put more money into that pot to help develop the community, which leads me to believe they're 100% dead serious about putting the stadium there. And if that's all it's going to take, I think that's really what the community was worried about. What's going to happen to the community when this stadium, especially during construction. So if the Sixers are going to put up more money, I think it's just a matter of time before this stadium gets approved. But we'll continue to cover that as it comes. All right, today we're going to go back to 2006, and the Eagles, ironically enough, welcomed the Carolina Panthers to the Link for Monday Night Football. Jeff Garcia was making his second start, filling in for Donovan McNabb, who injured his ACL. And Garcia did not disappoint, threw for 312 yards, 3 touchdowns, including a game-time fourth-quarter touchdown to downtown Reggie Brown. Brian Dawkins then followed that up with an interception of Jake Delhomme to set up David Akers' go-ahead field goal. With the Panthers then driving already in field goal range, it was Lito Shepherd stepping in front of a pass intended for Keyshawn Johnson in the end zone with 24 seconds left to seal the win for the Eagles. And this was a huge win because it was the first of 5 straight wins for the Eagles. 3 in a row, 3 of them on the road within the division. They went Washington, Dallas, the Giants, or I forget what the order was, but 3 straight division road games. Eagles won 5 in a row, unexpectedly won the NFC East, went on to beat the Giants in the wild card round before losing to the Saints in the divisional round down in New Orleans. That was the hit game where Sheldon Brown had the monster hit on Reggie Bush, and all of that started on this day back in 2006 when the Eagles beat the Panthers 27-24 when Jeff Garcia led the way and the defense stepped up, intercepting Jake Delhomme twice in the fourth quarter, sparking a 5-game winning streak en route to the NFC East title. Be sure to let me know your thoughts on the Sixers. Do you care? Does anybody care? Reminds me of the Chicago song. Does anybody really know what time it is? Does anybody care? Does anybody know what the Sixers record is? Does anybody care? But that's on the Back to the Future voice and text line 267-495-8531. Let me know your thoughts on that. Nick Sirianni, the Major League Baseball golden at-bat rule. Everything is fair game. Do you think the A's should have stayed and the Phillies should have gone? I've had some people tell me that over the years. Let me know your thoughts on everything as we approach the big game on Sunday. Eagles-Panthers. We'll have more of the breakdown as the week goes. Be sure to donate to our gift and food drive if you have not already. Every little bit helps. The GoFundMe is in the description. But let's help our friends and neighbors and spread some holiday magic. All right. Got me all fired up today on a Wednesday. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for December 4th. Not September. December 4th, 2024. My name is Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Wednesday. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.